Welcome to the Amazon Legends podcast, where we have real stories about making it big on Amazon. Our guests are CEOs of large companies and entrepreneurs who became powerful sellers, also experts specializing in helping sellers, and both former and current Amazon employees who will give us an insight from behind the scenes. Here's your host, Nick Berentsen.
Welcome to another episode of Amazon Legends. My guest today is, when you hear all her accomplishments, what's she doing here? So she started in tech, became a multimillionaire at the age of 33 when she sold her company, then transitioned into fashion when she put Denver on Fashion Map. And then today she's the owner of A-Line Boutique that has 4 locations. And also, she's the author of Learning to Fly, which is a captivating book. It's amazing, her journey. So, on top of all that, she's an extreme sports fanatic and adventurer. So, never a boring day kind of person. So, if you hang out with her, guarantee you won't be bored. So, everybody meet my guest, Karmen Berentsen. Welcome to the show, Karmen.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. And that is a very warm welcome. Wow. I appreciate that.
Well, I mean, I'm just messenger here. You've done all those things. I'm sure there's plenty more we left out. But so your current company, A-Line Boutique, created A-Line Boutique with a formula that is different than most people have. So tell us what that is.
Nick, it's really boils down to social impact and therapy. That's what we do.
So tell me, A-Line Boutique is obviously in clothing.
A-Line Boutique is obviously what?
In clothing, right?
In clothing. Yeah, it is.
So how do you combine the social impact and the therapy? They usually odd thing for a clothing company.
It is. You are absolutely correct. And yet clothes to me have always been a way of power, right? So we've all known when we were little children dressing up, right? We put on the cowboy hat and we were bang, bang. And we, put on the princess dress. I did, and all of a sudden we were the beautiful princess, and we tried on things and we embodied things and we felt things when we tried things on. Well, it doesn't change when you grow up. Right. When I was 26 building my first company, I needed to feel 38. When I was 28 years old, I was presenting to Tyco Healthcare, Covidien, W.L. Gord, Fortune 50 companies, right? $80 billion companies. And I needed to feel not 26 or 28, but 38. Right. And I did that through power of clothes. And now at 48, right, I love feeling hip and cool and edgy, yet still polished and sophisticated and age appropriate. And so, but yet I hate shopping, and people are always amazed.
Wait a minute.
I know.
Well, I better clean up my ears. A lady who hates shopping, but how is that possible?
No, most women do. So women love the therapy of shopping, right? The fun when you're on vacation and you get to stroll into a store and pick up something, right? All of us love the thrill of buying, right? That's fun. But true shopping, like when you're like, hey, I need a new wardrobe. Hey, I've gained 5 pounds. Hey, I'm interviewing for a newer, hey, I'm entering a new phase of life, right? Wanted or not wanted, right? The reality is that to go shopping and to have to find something, for 80% of women and maybe 90%, it's work, right? It's not the fun shopping when I say you get lost in Target, right? And you get to go in the home section and be like, ooh, this is fun, right? It's work because that same dress, or, in one dress, you might be a size 2 and another designer, you're a size 6. Right. And you think, oh, this is so cute on the rack. And then you get in the dressing room and you feel frumpy and fat and ridiculous. Right. And so shopping itself, like clothes shopping, is work. But yet if you have a stylist and a stylist, that's not a new career that I created, right? A new profession. That's the word I'm looking for. Is that there's been professional stylists forever, right? But when I lived over in Europe, we'll get there. But I really got to firsthand experience professional stylists who it wasn't a retail job for them. It couldn't be further from that. They are knowledgeable. They are professional. They can size you up in 2 seconds, right? They can pull things. They know how to pin things. And you walk out of the dressing room and it's not, oh, cute top. It's like, oh my gosh, cute woman. Like, yes. I mean, hear me roar. Like, and it's the same thing men have done for years, right? You guys go into shop for suits and you walk in and the guy goes, you're 44 long and pulls 3 jackets, pins, and you walk out 20 minutes later and it's effortless. But women didn't have that, or a lot of women don't have that to this day unless they shop with A-Line. And so we're very different in that I don't have any retail help, meaning I have no hourly employees. I have no store managers. I have 4 beautiful, like the one behind me, beautiful locations, right? 4,000 square feet. And I have 0 store managers because I don't hire anyone who has to be managed. I hire professionals, right? Who might now, we have training, we have coaching, we have onboarding, all the above, but management, I don't hire hourly people who have to be managed, right? And so what you experience as this customer is this professional, right? This serious professional who knows the product, who knows how it hangs, who knows how it's fitting, and can quickly solve really that problem. Because when you're coming in, it's like, hey, I have a date night, or I have this, or I'm going on this trip, and they can quickly solve it. And we do that not in suiting or in business, just in that, but I call it more casual chic. And that is everything from, hey, I have an outfit to do errands in and pop in and have lunch with, to I have a date night, to I have a cocktail dress, right? So daily life, we style for daily life, and we're women's easy button. And so the social impact is really that we make women feel seen, beautiful, confident. The number of women that have moved from invisible to invincible in the last 10 years of owning A-Line is why I wake up every morning, right? It is, I do not wake up because I get so excited about a new dress or a sweater, right? It is, I wake up every morning because the impact we have had on women, on literally who have probably lost themselves, right? Who have literally kind of disappeared in the background, and their life has become about their 4 kids and their husband and their house and everything that they provide, and no one's taking care of them, right? And so they walk into A-Line and we see them. And we go, who are you? And then we don't make them someone else. We make them version 2.0 of themselves, right? And then they literally pull back that curtain, right, from the dress room. And it's amazing. They go in, they're like, okay, I'll try and stuff. And they open that curtain and it's like, hello, beautiful, and they feel empowered and they feel seen and they feel relevant and confident, right? And so that's the social impact. We are helping women daily feel alive and seen.
Well, I mean, this is describing something that goes really, it's beyond shopping, because
Yes.
you know what they say about going to interviews. So you have to look the part. So you can't just show up for an interview unless you look the part. So that's a big part of it. And but when you look the part, that doesn't exist in isolation, right? You also feel the part.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that carries through after the interview. So this is not like a one-time event. And I mean, in fact, there are studies, I cannot cite exactly which ones, but I remember reading schools that mandate uniforms on kids, their performance is much, much better. Why? Because there's certain discipline. First of all, if you really dissect this idea of looking the part or looking sharp, or looking good, really there is a discipline element in that. So you have to, I mean, you can't just go put on nice clothes without taking a shower, without doing something with your hair, without,
Right.
So, I mean, that's discipline. Now, if you're going to do that, you need to take your time to do it. Doesn't happen in 5 minutes. So that means you've got other things to do. So you have to plan. So there's like a whole different things set of things that go into looking the part. So that's what you are describing. To me, really, is the social impact comes from all those practices. What do you think?
I love that. I actually literally wrote down the uniforms, and you're right, because sometimes I'm at a party and when someone says, "Oh, what do you do?" And I say, "Oh, I own a women's empowerment company," and they're like, "Oh, wow, what is it?" And I said, "A-Line Boutique," and they go, "Wait, you have a retail store?" And I was like, "No, I don't. No," But I talk about this, but I've never used that uniforms, and that's a great, very concrete evidence, scientific study that you're right. I mean, they don't just have uniforms to have uniforms, right? There is something about having to show up and having that collared shirt and playing the part. So I love that. Yeah, I'm going to use that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I remember. So we were talking before we started the episode. We were talking about experiences that we remembered as a kid. So I can tell you, I remember my experience because I didn't grow up in this country. So, and where I went to school, they mandated uniforms. So it was basically a black, like a shirt, and then you could wear, shorts under it or pants, but you always had like a white collar. So you had to put a white collar. So one year, my mother actually had a silky kind of black shirt.
Okay.
And I remember that year, I mean, now that we're talking about it, I never thought about this for years. That year, I was like shining. I mean, I was always a good student, but I was shining that year. I was making my mark.
Oh, it's true. It is absolutely true. I mean, I do the same thing in yoga or workout class. It's amazing when I have on, my favorite leggings and sports tank. I literally show up better. I turn it on. It's very, very true. So the power of clothes and us turning it on and participating in life is fun, and it's a real thing. It really is. And we have not grown from one store of 2,600 square feet to 4 stores and 15,000 square feet now, without impacting lives, right? You don't. And women don't choose to shop with us and to invest their time and their dollars if it didn't result in tangible feelings, right? Yeah. And so I love it.
So this podcast is called Amazon Legends. We usually talk about Amazon. So people listening probably thinking,
why is she on here? What are we doing next?
Where is Amazon? And there is an Amazon angle, guys. Just hold on, because Amazon is really, this is another thing. Amazon is a distribution channel. It's not a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle for the people who work at Amazon. You can make certain philosophies your lifestyle, but at the end of the day, it's a distribution channel, and you are utilizing Amazon to distribute your products. Who is distributing the products? You. Why do you do it? How do you do it? It all comes down to you deciding to do things and then having the inner strength and the discipline and everything else. And we're first talking about all those things. How does one inherit those drives to be successful on Amazon? So let's talk about your story about the book, because that's what put you on Amazon.
Yes.
So A-Line Boutique is basically your current business, but you're not selling first of all, is this your own brand or are you carrying different brands?
We're carrying different brands. So we are a distributor, same thing. Just like any big box of Nordstrom or Neiman's, et cetera, that we are not the manufacturer, we are the distributor. So yes, in A-Line, the biggest thing that we provide is the service. Now, at the end of the day, we don't charge you for a service fee, right? We ring up the dress, the shirt, the shoes, the jewelry, et cetera, right? But why people, right? What differentiates us, right, is that service. So we're not selling like this Alice and Olivia dress I have on Amazon through A-Line, right? We do have our own e-commerce site, but really what we get most excited about, even virtually, like we have a lot of virtual styling appointments that we do via FaceTime or Zoom, and it's amazing how we nail them. And so we call them shop boxes, right? So we can, if you have listeners in Seattle, we don't have a physical location there, but I guarantee you we can style that woman, send a box, and nail it, really, truly. But all that does lead into that that I published my memoir, Learning to Fly. And Learning to Fly also, people, let's just connect this, is that people say, wait, you own retail stores and now you're an author? And I'm like, oh, it's all the same point. I empower women through dressing them, right? And I also empower women through norming, through validating, through sharing my story, which makes them feel seen and heard, because we're all on this life journey together, right? And so, but I published it on Amazon, and we hit #1 new release, which I'm so proud of. So the first day it was live, we hit #1 new release. And so we did that through Amazon. So I'm very thankful for the platform of Amazon, because it gave me that platform for my book. And it was ridiculously easy. Well, I have a great assistant, but with a great team, but even herself, who had never done it before. What I say is I didn't hire someone who's in the publishing background. She's my assistant, does a million things, keeps me straight, manages up, all that good stuff, but had never published a book on Amazon, right? But literally was able to figure it out, do it well. And we hit #1 new release because, the category she did, the tracking that she did, the research that she did, and the platform really of Amazon is really, truly a very friendly platform for publishing your book, I would say.
So our discussion is about self-publishing your books and then selling it through Amazon.
Yes.
So this is, you mentioned it very humbly in a few words, but really there's a lot there. First of all, you made a decision that you're not going to go look for a publisher to
Correct.
produce your manuscript, and then for them to say, okay, we'll publish it, and then we'll put you on book tours. You did not go that way.
I did not.
The other way. You said, I'm going to self-publish it. Talk to us about that. Why did you choose the self-publish route?
It's a great question. I chose it very specifically because the biggest reason is I didn't feel like I needed is the correct. Could I have benefited from a publishing house? Sure, absolutely, right? But there is a difference that I do have a platform through A-Line, right? Because we've been in business 10 years, because we have 18,000 women who give us their name, their business card, their contact information, and we haven't bought any of those. I have a platform and a following through the A-Line. And then also our women are really cool. And there's some really connected women, right? So I had this avenue for me to feel like I could self-publish and get some traction, right? And then from there, I use the platform of Amazon to really get to the masses, right? Whereas if I was, for example, maybe a new novelist, right? Who loved writing and decided I wanted to take a whack at doing a novel. But the people I know are my neighbors down the street, my yoga people, my church, whatever, we all have our communities, right? And that's the only people I knew. I would have gone to a publishing house and pitched my idea and see if I could get picked up. Does that make sense? Whereas because I had that platform, the other thing is that I started writing 12 years ago, actually almost 13 years ago, but it took me 12 years to write it. So when I first wrote the first draft of Learning to Fly, it gushed out of me, almost like a musician says, they just write and write and the song just comes out of them. I mean, I could not stop writing. I wrote 17 hours a day. I was just absolutely absorbed with it. And my fingers couldn't type fast enough. Right. By the way, also, if anyone's interested in, I think so many people go, I want to write a memoir one day, right? And there's a lot of reasons, beautiful reasons for that. One of the best books to read is actually by Lamott. It's called Bird by Bird. She's a New York Times bestseller, and she's a teacher of writing and a professor. And she has a great chapter called Shitty First Drafts. And I'm just quoting exactly what the chapter says. Okay. It's literally in print. Because too many people edit, right? They think, oh, this is going to be read and published and it has to come out perfectly. Nothing comes out perfectly, right? It has to come out just blah and raw. And so literally that was a phenomenal coaching for me just to get the words out. So my first draft was just very raw, right? Horribly written, great stories, right? Great concepts, but really bad book. Right. And then I found an editor who lives up in Boulder and was so pleased. She took it on. But she told me, she said, this is a phenomenal story. It's a horribly written book. Right. And I was like, okay, well, great. You edit. And she's like, no, that would be called ghostwriting. Right. This is not editing. We're not the editing part. We're the ghostwriting. I was like, great, ghostwrite it. And she's like, no, you told me you want to learn to write. Now, very naively, I thought, yeah, I do, because I thought it was, like me learning to ice climb. Pretty simple, actually. It really is. It's very fun and exciting, but it's really a short learning curve. Okay. I had no idea that actually learning the craft of writing would be on par with like being a concert pianist, right? I mean, the hours it would take me of learning it. And that's what I did, though. I committed myself to the trade and to the craft. And that's why I really get excited and proud of the book, because I'm like, no, I wrote it. Like, I have customers and friends who start reading and they're like, okay, this is so good. Who wrote this? And I was like, I did. And they're like, no. Like, who's your ghostwriter? And I was like, no, I wrote it. And they're like, you can write, girl. And I'm like, I know, because I learned it. I worked really hard at it. But so also the other reason to self-publish was because I had a writing coach. I had that support. I had that editor. And then also within A-Line, I had this team from marketing and from just operations and this leadership and this support that I would not have had as an independent writer, if that makes sense. But because of A-Line and the sub team there, I got all this support as a writer that I would have gotten from a publishing house in some ways, if that makes sense, in that coaching. And so with those two combined, and then my last thing is I really did not want someone else having an agenda, right? I wrote this with an agenda of helping women come alive, right? And encouraging women they're enough and they're worthy and you're enough. You're divine and you're beautiful and you're perfect. And it's not a self-help book. It reads like a novel, but I had an agenda in it, right? And I didn't want a publishing house looking at my good content and going, ooh, that can fit into our kind of goal this year of doing this. And we can use your story as our means, right, to that. And I was like, no. No one's going to use it. I'm going to publish it as is, as I intended it. And then also I had a different objective. My objective wasn't to move into a career of just writing, right? It really was, I thought, if I publish this and the only people who read it are maybe the 18,000 women who shop at A-Line and my neighbors and the people around me. And if it's not good enough to go further than that, then it's not meant to. Right. Whereas I feel like a publishing house could have guaranteed and taken it across the world. But if it's not good enough, I learned something years ago. I was listening to Oprah and she said, all these people are like, how do I if I could only get to Oprah's book club, And she said, instead of focusing on my book club, focus on writing something worthy of my book club. And guess what? If it's worthy, it'll get there. Right. And so I focused all my energy and effort on writing something of worth and of value and that changes people and that makes their lives better, right? And makes them better, richer, not better as in they're broken, but better as in more alive and more confident. And I just put my effort on that, and then I'm trusting the universe. And if it's really worthy, it will be on Oprah's book club one day, right? Well, not because of a publisher, but because it's actually that good.
Well, I mean, yeah. There are some practical reasons why you did what you did, like having your own platform and having a good team around you and having the platform being 18,000 people that already are ready to read it, as well as a team around you that provides the infrastructure for you to do this. But really, you are the driver in all this. I mean, despite all this, you could have still said, well, I'm going to go that way.
Right.
for the publisher route.
Right.
What I'm hearing is, and again, having read a little piece of your book is, and you being an adventurer and everything else. I mean, you know what you want, and you know how you're gonna get it, and you just go after it. That's really all there is to it.
That is very true.
And you are making an educated approach,
Right.
and you're saying, okay, you know what makes sense. Well, then it doesn't matter, hard, easy. That doesn't really factor into your thoughts. You just go after it, right?
I do. That's true.
I think it's nice to have 18,000 people who are ready to jump on board with you. But I think you should give yourself credit. You've just done it because that's the way you thought you were gonna do it, and you did it anyway. So let's discuss the moving parts of the book. So you've decided you're gonna self-publish. So now there aren't too many options, even though it's a huge country, it's big business, but there aren't too many options if you want to go the self-publishing route, right?
Right.
So you chose Amazon. What was the main reason for Amazon?
Oh, because I love Amazon. I mean, honestly, it's so funny because I'm always, as an entrepreneur, I am always putting myself back in, like, what would I want, right? What do I want this experience to feel like? Where do I go? Right. And the reality is Amazon Prime, like, I mean, I'm sorry, but it's so good. It's so easy, right? I love it. And so, it was just, it made sense to me. I really didn't even consider, so let's be clear. I printed, I don't know, a couple thousand copies with a local printer. So like this physical copy here is truly, it was printed in a printing house here in Denver, right? It didn't come from Amazon. And so I printed those and we launched first, and I had a couple of events in the store and virtually and in the stores. But then it was like, okay, now we're ready to go to Amazon. And I did that also strategically because, one of the reasons I was able to hit that #1 new release is because I had enough people who had already read it, right? Mm-hmm. So I had sold enough copies directly that the reality is we did a big push and said, hey, we're launching on this date, right? If you loved it, buy one for someone else, or, and I had enough people who are like, oh my gosh, I love this. I mean, I had people who bought, 10 copies for everyone in their book club, right? Or who said, hey, all my book club members, go to Amazon now. This is our next read, right? And I could not have done that if they would not have already read it, right? I mean, in theory, but they're not going to have their book club read it, right? But they've already read it. Like, there was enough women who've already read it and was like, I love this book. And now I want everyone else to read it. I want our book club to read it. And so that was something strategic. So it was about a year difference where we literally had it in print. It was published in print, in the stores. And the only way you could buy it, though, was in the stores. Now, could you buy it on Shopify from our store and then we mail you a copy? Sure, but we've still printed it. And then we published it, another launch on Amazon on that now. And so those copies, Amazon prints. So literally the process, you upload the manuscript, they help you, you change the book cover for an e-print, and then you pick your categories. And that's where my assistant really, I can't tell you enough great things about her, really researching what those categories are. For example, we didn't even put ourselves in the category of memoir because Katie Couric's memoir came out 2 days before mine.
Okay.
So I'm not going to compete with Katie Couric, right? I mean, it's just being smart enough, right? And so but from business and entrepreneur and self-help, there's a lot of other categories that it's relevant for, right? Because like all of us, I mean, a story has lots of facets of it, right? So I could fit in lots of different categories, but we purposely did not put it in the category of memoir, right? Because I knew that all those sales would count for nothing in getting me to #1.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
hold on. Let me back up here.
Okay.
So, because there's something significant in how you describe this, because you've done these things and they're natural to you. But
Yes.
I heard you say that you printed, you once you finished, it was ready to publish. You actually printed that yourself
Yes.
and then sold it in stores
Yes.
or in your stores or
In my store. Now, I did do a couple partnerships with a couple other local businesses and, and gave them, and they bought copies and sold them in their POS.
So,
But
first group of readers, they were basically your customers coming into
yes,
the store when they heard about.
yes,
I mean, at this point, I wouldn't call your customers. They are your fans, really, your followers.
yes.
So
They're
you inspire them, you empower them. So they obviously look up to you. So when they heard you have a book and there it is physically printed, which you printed yourself on
yes,
a printer, and these are all entrepreneurial moves. So they bought it. So it's about a year before you went to Amazon with this. So by the time you went to Amazon, you had a fairly large number of people who read the book, right?
yes, yes,
So what you are describing, I mean, this is the first time ever I'm talking about books on Amazon. Yeah. But there is a common denominator here between books and launching any tangible products, private label products, and that's called reviews. So orders come from reviews and reviews come from orders. So people have that at startup level. Well, how do we get reviews? We have no orders yet. Well, we're not going to get orders unless we have reviews. So there is that initial hump that everybody has to get over. You have short-circuited that. Not coincidentally, but
right.
you said, I'm going to build that following and get the review. And then you went to Amazon, and on Amazon, so at that point, so this is a physical book. It's not an e-book. It's a physical book. And you went to Amazon and said, I want to sell this. So you listed on Amazon.
Right.
So tell us about what happens after you list on Amazon.
Well, it's not through the seller platform. It's through KDP. So they have their own specifically focused on books, right? And it is also on ebook. So on Kindle, etc. So it is, but they also, you get to choose when you go to Amazon and you type in learning to fly, right? You will go, do I want the Kindle copy or do I want the soft copy? And so the printed copy. And so you choose it and and then you purchase it. And if you purchase the printed, then they actually, Amazon printing house will print it and mail it. So it's not like, and that's what I didn't know at first. I didn't know if I list on Amazon that I have to go back and I have to pack it and ship it and get it out. I'm like, oh no. So no, they do all of that.
So is that right from the get-go? When you have a book you want to sell on Amazon, right from the get-go, you no longer have anything to do with printing it. They will assume responsibility for all
of it. And it doesn't matter if 2 are ordered or if 100 are ordered. So, and that's the power of going with this platform and this system and this engine, right? Because they have it down of you upload it and then they can do a one-off print. Even now, maybe one day 10 are ordered and another day 1 book is ordered, right? Amazon just prints that one. They don't wait and say, well, we have to have 50 orders to run a print, right?
Waiting on Amazon.
Right. There's no waiting on Amazon. And so it's wonderful because they have it down now. And the interesting thing too, is that they really don't, it's very fair in my mind, what they take after printing my own copies, right? And that initial investment. So also you don't have that out cash, right? When I printed a couple thousand of them, I paid for the printing, right? I paid for the proof. I paid for the shipping to me. I mean, I warehouse them, I stock them, right? You have all that initial cost, all of it up front. Whereas publishing on Amazon, you don't have that. So I only have really good things to say about it. And now we're about to launch the Audible version on Amazon. So in October, the Audible version of Learning to Fly is coming out. And again, that's me listening to my friends and customers in our A-Line community. There's quite a few people who've said, Karmen, I've heard so many good things about your book. I don't read books. I listen to books. That's just my MO now. And let me know when it comes on Audible. So I also am hopeful that we're going to hit #1 again, because it's like a new launch. Amazon treats it as a new launch. So we're going to launch again in October on the Audible on Amazon exclusively. And then, it'll be launched on Amazon. And so,
So let's go back. So when you went to Amazon to sell it on Amazon,
yeah.
you've got the whole thing set up. How does one get to be the #1? What do you do, and what does Amazon do? What are the expectations and costs? And I heard about your strategy not to be in memoirs because you had somebody, Katie Corey. Frankly, your story is more interesting to me than Katie Corey's story.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, yours is look, I'm always attracted to struggle stories because struggle stories, I mean, of course she had struggles. I mean, come on, let's face it, anchor on NBC morning show for God knows how many years. I mean, there is no struggle there. It's a different kind of struggle.
Right. It's a different kind of struggle. Yeah. Right. No. Well, thank you. So there's really zero cost, right? You have time costs, but you don't have any other hard costs. And to get to #1, so you're not buying it with Amazon. It's not like paid ads. It's not like Google AdWords or paid sponsorship on Instagram or anything like that. So you're not paying for any feature for it to pop up or anything like that. What you're doing is you are truly, it's so much about your categories, right? You get to pick, they say 3, but actually if you, a little tip that we learned from them as we were talking to them, and they're really helpful. Like we really use the help desk quite a bit. And they're like, actually you can request, up to 7 or 8, and but you have to request them. So when you're filling out the form, they give you 3, but if you call them and you say, hey, would you also put us in these additional categories? They'll like, sure. And they'll put you in them. It's just not on their website. So that's a little tip for your listeners. But it's truly, it is organic and is authentic. And then to hit #1, you have to sell the most books in that category in 24 hours. And then it's dynamic. It keeps going. Right. And so, one day, we're #1, and another day we're not even close to #1. We're nowhere on the list. Right. And so it's going to spike, and we can change it. We can constantly change our categories. And so, for me, it's definitely a badge, right, that I'm very proud of.
Sure.
Right. Again, it's very different. Is it important for me to stay there every single day? No, that's not where my focus is, right? I'm a huge proponent of Tim Collins, good to great, right? You have to say no to good things to do great things. And yeah, it would be good to be an Amazon #1 bestseller every day. Is it great in my personal, moonshot and where I'm going and all that kind of stuff? No, it's not. So that's not where our focus is, right? Will it be again though, when we launch Audible? Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. And so it really is, it's just about how many purchases were made. Can you be the highest purchased item in that category in 24 hours? And if you are, then you hit it. So we were #1 in business. We're #3 in this. So there's different categories that we hit. And then over the next couple of days, we changed again, it's very dynamic, but believe me, when I kept looking, and all you're doing is when you search it up, it says like #3 new release or #1 new release. And believe me, as soon as that #1, I screenshot, I was like, okay, screenshot again, right? Because that's the only way you're going to get it. And they were really good to tell us that too. They're like, hey, screenshot it, because there's no way for us to go back and say, you were #1, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, so it really is really stupid simple, right? It's not more complicated than that. Again, all of it comes with the grit, the hard work, and doing all the prep, right? Getting those people lined up, getting everyone ready to purchase at that same,
Well, I mean, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, it's one thing to make the most number of purchases, but uh, it's how do people find out about it?
right. Well,
And that's your job, right?
yeah. And again, having the platform, but you really do. And if I didn't have the A-Line platform, I kind of also just viewed this like, like a candidate does, right? In politics, right? They make these circles and they're like, okay, well, here's this group, here's this group, here's this group, right? And then they campaign. And it's the same thing. If I have advice for someone else who wants to hit number one on Amazon, a new release, and maybe they're a professor, maybe they need that for their resume. There's a lot of different, maybe they're scientists and they want that, authoritative, they wrote the book, right? But now they want to say it's number one new release. Think through all your circles, right? And then think through people who have their own circles, right? And then it's that planning, it's that prep, it's meeting with them, it's that launch plan of really mobilizing those groups of people and then getting them incentivized, right? And I don't care if it's like, hey, screenshot it and let me know you bought a book and I'll send you a $5 gift card, right? You can't do that through the Amazon platform, right? But you can do it that's just being a business owner, right? We all think through promotions or rewards or, and so, whatever you can do to really make that people committed. I literally got to the, before we launched in my own calendar, just, your calendar that we all use, I sent a meeting invite to literally 125 people. And I put it on their calendar, buy my book. And I put the link in there, right? And then write a review, right? And so but I asked for it. I emailed, people that I knew, from colleagues to friends to obviously, our A-Line community. But yet also, the new neighbor down the street I was having a barbecue with. I was like, hey, so, when my book came up and they're like, oh, I want to read it. I was like, wait, don't buy it yet. Buy it next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Right. and what's your email? Can I send you a calendar invite? Right. But I did that. It's literally the guerrilla marketing, right? The groundwork, just get it sold.
So the old hustle and bustle always
Yes.
works.
Yes. It's the old hustle and bustle, like roll up your sleeves and ask for the sale.
Yeah. So, whenever I want to remind myself the hustle and bustle mentality here in New York City, you just go to the fashion district, or the perfume district or the jewelry district, whichever, they're all the same place, basically.
Wow.
You can see it on the street. You can see people are always hustling.
Yeah.
To get things done. So, this is, like I said, we've never covered books, but really the essence of it is you have to have a platform.
Yes.
And if you don't have a platform, you just write the book, publish, that's not going to go too far. But you have to organize the audiences that would appreciate this. And then once you launch it, you just get them to buy it and then write a review. That's really what it comes down to. And then whoever sells the maximum number of copies within 24 hours in your category that you would have strategically chosen, because that's up to you, right?
Right. Right.
Then it will have the most number of sales.
Yep.
And therefore it will become number one. And then of course Amazon will promote that as number one bestseller.
Correct.
And then that will get more orders, and then you basically from that point on you just keep pushing forward.
Correct. There's the organic. Yep. The engine has started. You pushed it down the hill. It has momentum now and it's going to keep rolling.
Yeah. And in the process, you have no fulfillment worries. You have no nothing. Amazon will provide. Talk to us about the Audible aspect. So who gets to make that decision? Is it up to you, or does Amazon say we want to create also an Audible version?
No, it's completely up to you. So it's just like you deciding to write a book. So you can, you could have an Audible book without a printed book. You don't have to even have a printed book to have Audible. So no, it's a completely different, it's like publishing another book. Right. So no, it has to be complete and finished. And then And then, this is now in theory. I haven't done it yet. Or me and my team haven't done it. So, but it's getting it to Amazon and to KDP and doing it through them again. That arm of Amazon. It's part of Amazon. It's not a third party company or anything like that.
Well, Audible was acquired by Amazon.
Audible was acquired by Amazon. Yeah. So you are publishing, but I still think to get it on the publishing platform, I think.
Yeah, I think that
you have to use KDP.
I think they kept it as a separate company, even though it's acquired by Amazon. So it has its own way of doing things. So I just heard you say something interesting. So it's like writing it all over again. So isn't the Audible version just basically picking up the copy and you reading it?
I thought so until I actually was starting to do the process. And again, like anything, you're like, I am so naive. So when I actually started, booked the studio and was going to start reading it, I did hire a narration coach just to give me some coaching and make sure that I could nail this the best that I could. And I quickly discovered that narrating is a completely different skill. It's like acting, right? And it's amazing how I do a lot of podcasts. I do a lot of public speaking. I'm a keynote speaker and just a few months, I do a lot of speaking. I'm on a lot. And I thought, oh, I got this. But it is everything from physically, right, to actually consistently read for 4 to 5 hours a day for how many days straight. My vocal cords in 45 minutes, I started, because you're projecting and you're this and it's intense and you're reading. I don't have the vocal strength for it. I really don't. I had no idea. And now could I exercise it and get there? Yes. But the bigger thing is that I listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of Audible myself. And there's a big difference in listening to a conversation on a podcast versus listening to one voice telling a story. And I realized that I am going to do my book an injustice, right? Because I don't have the skill set to keep someone really hanging on, their edge of their seat for 9 hours, or to keep them focused on it when they're doing dishes, driving, all that we do while we listen to podcasts and audibles and books on tape. And so, I actually had this aha, and I called the production company that we're using to produce, the actual Audible of it. And I said, am I crazy of like backstepping and saying, I think I want to hire a professional narrator? And he said, no, he said, you are actually the enlightened one. He said, too many people, right, think I wrote this. And it was interesting because I thought if I was a novelist, I wouldn't do it. Because, they're a novelist and maybe they're a hermit in a corner in a den, and their mind is so creative and they can articulate, but they can't be on, right? And they can't project. And I thought my job, I'm the spokesperson. And I thought I can read my own book and I should read it. But yet, no, I'm not. I picked a narrator. She's a professional narrator. I'm really excited about her. And so Lisa will be reading my book, not me. Her voice does sound very similar though. I didn't go with someone from, New York and have that accent, or from the South, or, I did try and pick a professional narrator who sounded a bit like me. But the biggest thing was we got quite a few interview clips of them reading a passage that I picked from my book. And it was really interesting because I also was looking for someone who was emphasizing what I would emphasize. And there is this tool called I Annotate that I get to kind of note. It's a director's notes, right, for the narrator. And so I feel good about that too. But I'm really excited. So mid-September 19th, I get a version of my Audible book for me to listen to, someone else reading my book.
Well, I mean, I never thought about it this way, but I don't use Audible unless like I'm with a friend who's listening, and then I just tag along. But now that you mention it, I can see exactly reading is reading to yourself is one thing, even as the author, but recording for Audible is a whole different thing. And as you were talking, I'm listening, I'm thinking about this interview of Tom Hanks on one of the talk shows, Graham Norton. You ever watch Graham Norton show?
No.
Oh, you have to look him up. He's British.
Okay.
He's actually he's Irish, but he's British. It's in my book. It's the top talk show, even before any of the American shows. Graham Norton. He often has American. I mean, they go there, and he is a delightful guy. So Tom Hanks was on his show. Now he has a secret. First of all, in American talk shows, usually you have one guest at a time. In his case, he has four of them sitting on the sofa next to each other.
Okay.
And they asked him, how come your show is so successful? Your guests are so relaxed. And he said, we liquor them up before the show starts. I mean, I'm not kidding. He actually gives them alcohol. And it's very rarely that they don't touch. It's that they are also, by the time the show starts, they are all liquored up. So anyway, the moral of the story, Tom Hanks was his guest. And he was asking about his different appearances. And what Tom Hanks talked about was him recording Toy Story.
Oh, yeah.
So if you think about Toy Story, that's like Audible, right?
It's completely. And that's exactly the aha I had was that when these major blockbuster movies has Tom Hanks and Reese Witherspoon and, major actors, they do not have this unknown voice, right? Because it's still acting. It's telling a story.
He was describing exactly.
Yes.
He was saying that, you would think that I'm in front of this microphone and I'm just reading the script. He says, by the time I'm done with it, I am exhausted.
Yes. Yes. That is exactly it. That is exactly it. And that was the enlightenment, the aha. I was like, wait, I'm not, because the reality and how I finally described it too, because I had a couple of friends who were so bummed and they're like, Karmen, you have to read it. You have to read it. And I was like, well, you know what? When Reese Witherspoon makes this into a movie, I was like, am I going to act? And they're like, no. And I said, of course not, because I'm not an actress, right? I'm not an actor. This is not what I do. I do not have that skill set, right? I said, now I will be on the set. I will be in the director's chair. I will be participating and, having fun with it, but I'm not going to be in the movie. Right? When it gets moved into a movie. So why would I be in the Audible? Why would I be in the movie?
Why wouldn't you be in the movie? Of course you could be in the movie.
Well, I can be an extra, but I'm not going to play myself. Okay. Because it would be a really bad movie then. Okay. Because, no. But I can make some cameos. Okay. Just a little.
Yeah. There was nothing to it. The kind of story that you would have. Yours is a whole different thing. But the guy who wrote the story is a former special forces guy. His name is Marcus Luttrell. The movie was called Lone Wolf. It's the story of this special forces guys. They got completely ambushed by the Taliban.
Yes.
And then his life was saved by the locals. And he went back. So he wrote the whole book. And then it was made into a movie. He was in the movie, but he was an extra.
Right. No, I saw the movie. I wish I would have read the book. The movie's amazing, but that'll be me in Learning to Fly. I will not be playing Karmen Berentsen, right? I will be, some fun extra.
Yeah. So, this is, you have completely opened my eyes to something I never knew existed. So first of all, obviously selling on Amazon and all these strategic decisions that I love. And then this audible aspect of it. These are all new. This is great. So, Karmen, you have your book. So anyone listening, you got to buy her book because
yes, please.
It's Learning to Fly. Go on Amazon, buy it, and read about it. But let's talk about you a little bit without really getting into too much because we want people to read the book. But tell me about this thing because your book starts at the age of 3.5. And you just you are convinced that you can fly, and then you get up on top of this thing, and then you jump, and then you fall. You don't do anything. You just get back up and then jump again, and thinking every time that you can fly because you can see how, and then you flip your arms, and then is that you can't. So at the age of 3.5, where is that conviction coming from?
I think all of us were born with this innocence and this, we're not in our head, right? We haven't been socialized. We don't overthink things. We feel things, right? And we believe, and it might be different things for different people, but I'm not the only kid who's dreamt of flying, right? And there is this magical thinking that we have as kids, right? Because we don't have enough life experience to realize the practicality and the realities, right? We're dreamers. And I start that because the whole book is about returning to that, right? But yet with all the intelligence and all the life skills and the wisdom that I've gained in the last 48 years, right? But I have really returned to a sense of my magical self. And the heart of that magical self is really knowing your worth and going, I'm enough. I'll give you a very simple analogy that isn't in the book because I would have been coming out of character. So my editor and writing coach was very smart to tell me, there's wisdom that I want to interject when I'm telling the story about 5 or 8 or this, or when I found my mom in the grand mal seizure on the floor, right? And now what I know about what that did to me as a 16-year-old, right? But I never take the reader out. I never take that narrator's voice, right? It just reads. And I might put some words to some things that, you knew in your gut. It's kind of like the next morning when you're like, oh, I had that thought and I didn't do anything with it. Right. But you did know it. There was that intuition and that wisdom. So, but with that is that now it's that returning, it's really reclaiming of self. Right. And how all of us as kids, we had innocence. And that's the whole definition of innocence, is that we had this belief in ourselves. We had a belief in our dreams. We dreamt. We believed in miracles. We believed in magic, right? And then life happens, right? And we get heartbreak from boys or, from lovers. It doesn't matter what, same sex or this or anything else, right? We get heartbreak. We get shamed from adults who are wounded themselves. We experience true tragedy, right? Including death. I mean, when my mom died when I was 17, and then we hardened. So, I mean, I remember like yesterday coming into the memorial home and standing in front of my mom's casket and realizing that if I felt, and just to the depth of my despair and my heartbreak and everything else at losing my mom, I would wake up 50 years old, a drunk on a park bench, because no one in my life was big enough at the time after 3 months of healthy warning, right? Of walking into my room and opening up my curtains and saying, okay, Karmen, it's time to get up. It's time to keep living, right? And so I made this decision as I'm literally standing in front of her casket to really say goodbye to little Karmen, to innocent Karmen, and bury her along with my mom. Right. And just,
you were 17 years old.
I was 17 years old. And I remember it. I remember it was this innate survival decision of just, I cannot feel this. I cannot cry. I cannot feel this. And I knew that part of me was dying. Right. And this innocent, and now obviously looking back, but all I knew at the time was I knew that I could not feel it. And I also just felt this, like, it's almost like my skin just grew a layer, right? And my heart got protected and I felt myself shutting down, right? And I was like, I'm never going to feel again. And what I didn't realize at the time was when you stop and you don't feel grief and you don't feel pain, you also can't feel love. You can't feel joy, right? It's not compartmentalized, right? If you shut down feeling, you shut down feeling. And so I did. I went into the world, and I remember driving back to college and I thought, I am going to make a ton of money and need no one. Right? I am done being hurt. I am done being vulnerable, and I am going to become this self-sufficient, powerful, independent woman. And
I have a question for you.
sure.
Knowing what you know, having made the decision you've made to become this strong person, if you were given the opportunity to go back to that moment, would you make the same decisions and then live your life the same way, or would you do something different?
No, I wouldn't. And even with all the success I've had, I could have grown into this strong woman that I am. But my strong woman that I am is really going back to the innocence and to the vulnerability. My power is so much in vulnerability now. And in teamwork and everything else, and not being a lone wolf. I wouldn't. Now, and yes, if I had another 17-year-old in my life, I would do everything I can to hug that girl and to say, you are going to cry and you are going to feel this, and I'm going to stay with you, right? You're not in this alone, and you don't have to go through this alone. Because the reality is that to become the woman that I am today, I had to eventually feel it. I just didn't feel it until 33, when I had sold my company for millions. And I thought that was what's going to make me happy. That was what was finally going to tell, me to myself and me to my dad, I'm worthy and I'm enough and I'm good enough and I'm bright enough and I'm smart enough and I'm pretty enough and everything else. But the problem is that I got there and nothing changed. And so I just sat in, this hard-hearted for 17 years, right? And it wasn't until I finally realized, oh, I was always enough. And I was always smart enough. And that brain has always been in me. And I didn't magically grow this brain, by selling my company for millions, right? And then the living began. And I missed 17 years of my life. And I left a wake of, I call them dead bodies, right? Not physical. Don't worry, I haven't killed anyone physically. But this wake of dead bodies of failed marriages, multiple, right? Failed relationships. There are multiple people in this world who will rightfully never speak to me again, right? Because I was in survival mode and I did mean and evil and awful things, not because I'm evil, but because I was so wounded and I so needed to protect myself that if anyone tried to get near to me, I would absolutely, whatever it took, right, to kill that relationship, I would do.
Take their heads off, right?
Absolutely. And looking back,
no prisoners.
Oh no, I was in full survival mode and I was going to survive, right? But there was another way to do it. So would I choose the same path? Absolutely not. And that's why I wrote this book, is so that hopefully, maybe when other people have been it, and I had multiple decision points, right? Mind you, like it was not like you get one choice in life. Like I got choice after choice and I kept choosing, be ruthless, be brutal. Your friends are not your friends, they're your enemies, right? Everyone's a competition. I'm going to beat everyone. And it wasn't until I was at my top, right, that I was lonely and alone and sadder than ever, right? And now I hated myself because everything wasn't outside of me. When my mom passed away, it wasn't my fault, right? I mean,
yeah. You said it earlier, life happens, right? So you have this innocence and then
right.
Life happens. So right. there is a quote that I like very much. The real strength is to your weakness and be out with it.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. It's so true. It's the same thing that, when you bring the most evil thing or the darkest thing into the light, it's not that dark, right? You're usually just hurt. And so much drama and so much turmoil comes about by us trying to cover it down and to try and protect it. And I talk about in my book, a beach ball analogy, right? Remember when you're a kid and you have that blow up, or now even you're in Cabo and you have the blow up beach ball and you push it down and it's fun to push it down under the water. You work and you balance it and then it pops up, right? That is our wounds. If we don't deal with that wound, that anger, that hurt, it will always rear its ugly head and it will pop up and it's disastrous. And those are the moments where you get home and you're like, who was that woman? I hate that woman. Like, I don't even know what happened. Where did that snap come out? right? Well, that's that wound. But that's where now I live. Like people are like, you seem so free. And I'm like, I am, because I don't have those beach balls. I'm not working tirelessly to keep them all down and keep all those secrets hidden, right? I'm just me. And I know that me is enough. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't show up and I don't work hard. It's kind of like you said, take the shower, get dressed, do it, do the work. Yes, I do the work, but now I incorporate this magic side of it, right? And this beauty that, guess what? You're for me. I didn't get on this podcast going, what are you going to unveil? What do you have to pull out of me? What are you going to try and corner me with, right? I don't approach life with this, everyone's out to get me. I have to be territorial. I have to protect my secrets, right? I approach it with, oh my gosh, there are so many good people in this world, right?
There's another thing that I am kind of realizing myself. When you get older, when you get over a certain age, it doesn't matter anymore. And I heard in one of the shows that when you reach the age 60, now you earn the right to be grumpy.
It's true.
So for me, I'm speaking for myself. And so at the end of the day, as you get older, you become more comfortable being who you are, whether people like it or not.
Yes.
You have this absolute, total confidence in who cares? This is who I am, and this is how I'm going to live my life. So that, unfortunately, it's very hard. And to have that kind of an approach to life when you're younger. It's because you're young and everybody's telling you what to do and everything else. So
right. But Nick, think about this for a second. Think of a 10-year-old or an 8-year-old. They have that same confidence. My 10-year-old, bursts in the room and is like, I have an idea. She doesn't think, oh, is it smart enough? Is it good enough? Oh, is my hair okay? Right? She just literally lives. And
but Karmen, there's something I'm going to say. I have to say this.
Yeah.
It is not always encouraged in every home.
That's true.
When kids have that confidence. I mean, that's why I was earlier at the beginning saying, where is it coming from? Your parents were encouraging parents. And even at the age of 3.5, they gave you that confidence that if you believe in something, you can do it. And you kept jumping off this thing, thinking you're gonna fly. Your parents gave that to you when you were 3.5. And in America, it's a great country. People are always encouraged to do whatever they want. But go to the third world countries. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't do it. Don't do this. It's always about what kids cannot do, should not do. So
no, that's a really good point.
I think all your accomplishments, I would say, they will go back to what happened between 0 and 3.5 years for you that kept you pushing to fly, and now you have to look for it.
No, I do. Exactly.
Well, that's great. So, we covered, of course, a different aspect of Amazon, but I love this kind of conversation a lot more. So this was great. So tell us how people can reach you. Of course, learning to fly on Amazon, that's the easiest way to read about Karmen, but tell us how people can reach your contact information. We'll put that on the website and also on YouTube, but give us how people can connect with you.
Thank you. Yeah. So just my name as on all social media channels. So if you type in Karmen Berentsen with a K, because my mom's name was Karen. And if you put an M in Karen, it becomes Karmen. So a little fun. That's how I became Karmen. I was supposed to be Craig Alfred, by the way. I was supposed to be a boy and I was supposed to be Craig Alfred, but I'm not. I'm Karmen Berentsen. So put in Karmen Berentsen on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, on any platform, even KarmenBerentsen.com, my website. So you can just literally type in Karmen Berentsen in your pick of social media or platform, and you can connect with me. And then obviously it'll be linked to A-Line and any woman. Sorry, Nick, I can't style you, but a wife, a sister.
So tell us, by the way, your stores, where are they based?
They are 4 stores in Denver. They are up in Union Station, downtown Denver, and then Cherry Creek, and then Denver Tech Center, and then south of Denver in Castle Rock. And then we are currently engaged in the LOI to go out of state. So I'll let you, we don't have the lease signed yet, so I won't make it official, but we are expanding outside of Colorado.
Great. Thank you, Karmen. This was great. I enjoyed thoroughly. So everybody listening, if you are in Denver, go to A-Line Boutique, meet Karmen. She'll tell you all about it.
Yes.
And if not, go online, go to Amazon, buy her book, and you're going to enjoy it. Thank you, Karmen. This was great.
Thank you, Nick.
And this brings us to the end of another episode. I'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Be sure and subscribe, rate, and review our show. And be sure and share an episode with a friend. And thank you so much for being with us today. We'll see you next week here on Amazon Legends.